So did the central office play a role in your implementation in any way?
Absolutely. How do I love working with the staff over there because I bring ideas to them and say, I want to do this. And they're like, go for it. I don't think I ever got to a point where if I went over there with ideas and the superintendents, assistant superintendents, um, even down to the teachers and hiring and the personnel, and said, this is the type of person we're looking for. They went and found them. It's they're a great support, and I don't think I could have done it without them, without their support and encouragement, and even financial support. And say, hey, we got this great intervention program for reading on computers, but I got any computers. They bought me computers. I mean, they bought the tools that we needed to make our kids successful. So they've really helped us. I would say absolutely. And without that support, I can't imagine the hoops I would have had to jump through.
So I also know, Josh, you haven't spoken about it yet, but you are pretty committed to the research base.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
I've heard you in the past use the research base to keep you on course.
Absolutely.
How do you stay up on that? And as a leader, how do you stay current with that work?
One of the things my staff always asks me to defend where I stand, and I think that's where this staff has pushed you. Well, how do you know that we have a language issue in this school? Well, let me go look into that. And so I think it was learning to being able to always defend myself in the end of those pieces. And I think that looking at, as I found through my study through RTI, that I had to. Everything was based on research. You never looked at a teacher and said, okay, Johnny's having trouble in reading. How do you know? Oh, because I said so. And it's the research is important to keep on, because that's where education is going, what it's based on. And if you get a reading program that isn't research based, no matter what you do in RTI, you can have the best universal screeners, you can have the best, and if you're not following that research based reading curriculum, it isn't going to matter either. You got to start with the core basics, and that starts with the research to prove it. It proves that it works. Education, one of the things that I remember going through my master's program, and we were doing research and for writing papers, and one of the things that always used to drive me nuts was they made a point based on what somebody else said, but they had no evidence that was true.
Right.
Just Johnny said it, and it got published, so it must be gospel. And so the research, having the data-driven evidence is really important. I think that we don't make an educational decision for our children in each grade without that research that says, okay, you know what, everybody's not getting the blends, so we need to go back and reteach blends. That's not just something that we're seeing in class. That's something that they've got data from multiple assessments, whether it's the universal screeners, the progress monitoring, was it from the assessments that come with a research-based program. Every decision is turned to research-based. So I think, the reason I guess I don't talk about it as much is because it's an expectation. It's turned into an expectation.
Was that true at the beginning?
To some extent, I think that we made some decisions on those RPAs, based on those RPAs. I know that one of the other detrimental things that we did was we talked about training we found, and I found the research online was that we ability group classes, entire classes, and there was no role model in classes, and there was no ability to peer model, and there was all this other research that showed that, hey, you need multi-ability classrooms, and that was probably my first big sells. And we did it, and I think we're reaping the benefit of that as well. But I guess it's selling it to the right person first. Mm-hmm. I never brought a new idea to the whole staff without having my feelers on where they were going. Again, I knew that when I brought that to the whole staff, the staff was going to be like, yeah, let's go with it. Because I had done the salesmanship, I had done the testing in the outline before I brought it to them.
So you had anticipated the pitfalls, you anticipated who might be bothered, who could champion with you, who could lead the process.
Absolutely. I never worked in a really big school and there was this organization called AEIN, and it was a grant-driven organization through the university, and it talked about logic models. And basically, logic models are a way to get from where you're at to where you want to go. And there's a steps by step by step. But one of the things that really helped me was I needed a leadership team here. And we built a leadership team, and basically we brought people that were recognized at each grade level, and we worked through these things. So I knew that I had the salesmanship that when we worked through a problem, then we'd bring it to the staff. And I already had the buy-in because the staff knew that it wasn't Mr. Gill standing up there making a decision. It was the team had looked through multiple options, and this is what we came up with. The RTI process, getting the process itself set up to work for our school, and I'm talking not the pieces inside, but like running a meeting. I'm talking about like setting up how often are we going to do the meetings? You know, how are we going to conduct a meeting? What questions are we going to ask in the meeting? Because when you have 17 staff to go through all 270 students a day, you got to have pretty well laid out and planned. And I think that team really, it was, they were driving it. I just sat there and added my point once in a while, but they were the ones that dictated what was going on in there. Mm-hmm. And it was because that I enabled those people to be leaders, and I think the staff respected that as well. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't, I'm making decisions, a top-down decision. Hey, we worked through this. These are some ideas we have. What do you think? And we always went to the staff like that. Right. And I don't think I thought through that, building that process. Like I said, it'd be last year, and everybody was like, that ain't gonna work. It was like, yeah, that sounds great. But we also spurred ideas when we got stuck. We went to the staff and said, hey, we're stuck here. You got ideas?
The leadership team
would go to the staff? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. We have staff meetings and grade level meetings every week. It is important that people open their doors and talk. I guarantee you go to any school in this state, you got some amazing teachers. Right. Utilize them. Right. Utilize them.